July the 17th, 1918. The wheel had come full circle. Once again, as in 1914, all the war, all its potential, all its hopes and fears and deceitful promises was centered on the river Marne. And on the Marne, the war had reached a brief moment of equipoise. The last of the great German offensives on the Western Front had been launched 3 days before. By July the 17th, it had been halted by the combined efforts of French, British, and American troops. General Ludendorff gave orders for the attack to cease.
A continuation of the offensive would have cost us too much.
General Foch, Commander-in-Chief of the Allied armies, asked,
what indeed had been the results of this Friedensturm, which it had been so loudly proclaimed was to bring peace by one victorious rush? Nothing but bitterness and deception, forerunners of defeat.
On the night of July the 17th, Ludendorff traveled northward to the headquarters of Crown Prince Ruprecht of Bavaria to discuss the final offensive against the British army, which had always been his main intention. For the few quiet hours while the equipoise lasted, the Germans remained unsuspecting. Field Marshal von Hindenburg described their awakening.
Suddenly, a violent hail of shells descended on the back areas. The enemy was undoubtedly attacking on the whole front from the Aisne to the Marne.
"350 French tanks rolled into the attack. American divisions spearheaded the main French onset.
Really, we started out recklessly, like a holiday it was, because we didn't know, we didn't see any dead people yet, no one was killed yet. So we started out, we followed the barrage, and the first Germans we saw dead were in the first line. We leapfrogged that line, we followed our barrage, it continued, we followed it to the second line of German trenches. There too, a lot of Germans were killed by our barrage, and there wasn't much opposition the first half hour or so.
When the Germans recovered from their surprise, resistance stiffened. It was never easy to defeat the German army. On July the 29th, Mangin wrote,
the struggle is very hard. We've had some success, but the Boche is holding firmly onto the swing door, which I'm trying to close.
Steadily, reluctantly, fighting stern rearguard actions, the Germans were forced to withdraw. Once again, the tide had turned. Once again, the German army was retreating from the River Marne. Hindenburg wrote,
It was a grievous decision. How the enemy would rejoice if the word Marne were to mean a revolution and a military situation for the second time. Paris, and indeed all France, would breathe again. What would be the effect of this news on the whole world? We realized how many eyes and hearts would follow us with envy, hatred, and hope.
the Germans had to bow to the inexorable. On August the 2nd, they evacuated Soissons. By August the 5th, the Second Battle of the Marne was over. The Allies had taken over 29,000 prisoners and nearly 800 guns. The German High Command understood the significance of what had been done. In Ludendorff's words,
The attempt to make the Entente incline to peace by means of German victories before the arrival of the American reinforcements had failed. The impetus of the army had not sufficed to deal the enemy a decisive blow before the Americans were on the spot in considerable force. It was quite clear to me that our general situation had thus become very serious.
what would be the effect of this news on the whole world, asked Hindenburg. This indeed was a key question. In France, a great surge of relief greeted the retreat of the German armies and the removal of the threat to Paris. In America, there was pride at the part played in these great events by the young army of the Republic. These July battles were America's first awakening to the harsh truths of the war. American losses had been heavy as their high-spirited but inexperienced soldiers stormed into the attack. General Mangin, who commanded them, said,
You rushed into the fight as though to a fate. American comrades, I am grateful to you for the blood so generously spilled on the soil of my country.
In Britain, the news of victory, after months of anxious waiting, months of shocked awareness of German strength, was treated with care. On August the 4th, as the battle was ending, Lord Rothermere wrote in the Sunday Pictorial,
We are still very far